Blessings, everyone. I like short phrases that have punch, that I can latch onto and they focus me in. Like, faith without works is dead. Peace, be still. I am of I am. The other day I read the phrase, stand in the gap. Stand in the gap. I knew it was a call to action, but I wasn't quite sure what type of action. So I went on a search to find out. I discovered examples of standing in the gap in the Holy Bible. In Exodus chapter 32, we hear of the Israelites becoming frustrated with the amount of time it was taking Moses to come down from Mount Sinai where he was with God. In their frustration, the Israelites decided to abandon the laws of God they had committed to. The men went around and gathered the gold earrings of the wives, sons, and daughters, melted them down, and created a golden calf. They worshipped and sacrificed to the golden calf. God's wrath and fury were immediate. His intention was to annihilate, get rid of all the Israelites. Moses stepped into the middle of this situation. In Exodus chapter 32, verse 11, from the English Standard Version of the Holy Bible, we hear Moses imploring God, "O Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you have brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand?" Moses had stepped into the gap between the Israelites and God. What does it mean to step into the gap? Do we, you and I, stand in the gap? The definition of gap is an unfilled space or a break between two objects. To stand means to be in one place or position for a particular time. So to stand in the gap means that we fill the space between the two objects. It is said that people who stand in the gap have to have a certain perspective. People who stand in the gap understand that there is a need to bridge the separation between people and situations. So who are the people who stand in the gap? Our first thought usually goes to people that have had a profound impact on civilization. Martin Luther King Jr., Sister Teresa, Nelson Mandela. People like these stood in the gap between the people who had the vision for the future and those who did not. Next, we often think of people who risked their lives to bridge the gap between danger and safety, like emergency personnel, police, firefighters, EMTs, or military personnel. If we pause and consider, there are others, maybe not so noticeable, who also stand in the gap. We hear them called activists, peacemakers, and volunteers. For example, they stand in the gap for children, seniors, animal activists, the environment. The list goes on and on. Homeless, the hungry. I believe that you and I stand in the gap. We just think we call it something different. We call it we are being responsible. We're helping out, or we're fulfilling a personal commitment. Where do we stand in the gap? As I look out at all of you, I see people that are responsible for caring and supporting family, friends, who regularly check up on a neighbor to make sure they're doing okay, who are super recyclers to minimize the impact on our earth of our waste. Are these actions not standing in the gap? Who here prays for others? When we pray for others, it is said that we are holding the high watch for them. We see the greatest potential within them, and imagine that potential is being realized and that the realization is occurring right now for them. Is prayer not standing in the gap? Why do we stand in the gap? I think we often qualify our why with statements like, it's important and it needs to be done. I have a passion for doing this. I have the time, so why shouldn't I? Take a moment to think about why you stand in the gap. Why do you so willingly give of your expertise, time, and love? I think people who stand in the gap intuitively know that within them are the faculties, the gifts, what Unity calls the 12 powers, inherent within us to handle whatever role we choose. Our deep faith has made us aware and grown our understanding that we are all one. Differences have become irrelevant. We see the gaps and we step forward into the gap. Consciously or unconsciously, we do that because from our faith we see the gaps and we step in to bridge the needs of the people or situations to the resources that are needed. I can hear some of you saying, okay, that's enough already. You're saying to yourself, I do not do this to be heralded or applauded. You see, you believe that you are blessed because you can do that. You can stand in the gap. What I want to say to each and every one of us, because I believe we all stand in the gap in some form or another, is our family, friends, peers, and the community we support are the ones who are blessed because we have chosen to stand in the gap. And so it is.